Welcome to this preview of the Conor Benn versus Eubank Jr. preview of the fight. We're pretty much a week off the fight now. Press conferences are done. A lot has been said overall between the two of them, and I want to break down what I think now compared to. So I've already done a video on this fight. What I think now after the press conferences and how that will affect the outcome of the fight. So getting straight into it, I think really my original thought from the original video is that Chris Eubank Jr. will win it. He's got the weight, he's got the size, that will come into play, and he's probably fought at a better level currently than Conor Benn has. Obviously Conor Benn is younger, but Chris Eubank having the experience and probably being only 1-2 fights away from retirement, I would expect that experience, that weight, the reach to benefit Chris Eubank in the fight. And I originally said he would win it. But what do I think now? That is the key question. And I think Conor Benn has only done well in them press conferences to convince people and myself that he is going to win it. And Eubank has done nothing but convince me that he has other things on his mind which can affect him in the fight, and affect the pressure on him is incredibly more than I even thought in that original video. So let's get straight into it. So Benn, I feel that he feels confident. I feel like he's coming out against Chris Eubank to have some digs at things, and as every fighter should do in the press conference, trying to win the fight before the fight happens. And what the incredible part of Conor McGregor's original game when he was first in the UFC was that he won fights before he even fought them against the best, Jose Aldo being the one example that you could instantly give, that he won the fight before he even got in the cage. Which, of course, why take damage if you can win the fight before you get in the cage? Make someone rush in and bang, you take no damage. That's the key. And I think Eubank has not been he's been answering questions, but some of the answers have been quite hurtful to his probably showing of his confidence, to show that he's got other things on his mind, mainly around his dad, Chris Eubank Sr. I think it's tough. I think Eubank Jr. obviously saying that he wants his dad in the fight and wants to be involved in the fight and around it and in his corner. And then Eubank Sr. literally coming out on the interview going like, I'm not involved, I hate the fight, I don't want it to go ahead, I'm not going to corner my son. To be honest, I can understand the fight, you not wanting the fight to go ahead, or your son not wanting to fight. I understand that completely, but what I don't understand is when he does commit to a fight and he is a boxer already and you have cornered him before, why, no matter what has happened, no matter what has gone on, you don't stand next to him and go, look, we're going to win this together. And I think that would give him every confidence in the world, and also take something off his mind to allow him to win this fight. I think he's got that in his mind. Eubank Sr. isn't helping by coming out in public on interviews, speaking about his son, not liking the fight, saying that, it's not a good fight, I don't like it. And the fact that you can't even get together and go, look, I'm going to corner, I'm going to be involved in a positive way in your fight. I'm not. If I'm not involved, I'm going to interview and I'm going to I'm going to be positive towards you, big you up and things. Or I'm not going to be involved in interviews at all. I'm not even going to speak to people in this. I'm not involved at all. You get on with it. The fact he's come out and been really negative about the fight and not really shown any sort of point to get in Eubank Jr.'s corner or even be involved with Eubank Jr. in this fight shows that, look, there's such a disconnect in that camp, and there's such a disconnect. Eubank Jr., look, he's going to feel something, and it's going to be negative when he sees these Eubank Sr. interviews, which isn't going to help him. And it's only come out like in the last, I think weak. He's been doing interviews in the last week, so I think that's a tough one for Eubank Jr. to really get under and go like, I'm happy to fight. And I think that's a key problem. I think, you've got to have a harmonious family life outside of the ring to really feel that you can go ahead and such a personal family feud. You need all your family behind you, and Eubank that's on Eubank Senior. Really, why? Even if you hate, you've had such a disagreement between the two of you who are family, you should not be coming out on interviews going, I don't like the fight, I don't think. Just don't speak. If you're not going to be involved, don't speak. There's such a thing of going, well, why? It's such a disconnect, to be honest, between two of them. No matter what Junior's done, you back your family, and that's where I come from, is that you back your family and you are always there for your family. So I think that's a key problem. I think the pressure is so big on Eubank Jr. And I said it in the first video I said about was that, look, the pressure's high. That is a key point. The pressure is high, and it's only got higher from that point where I was at in that first video. The pressure is so big on Eubank Jr. to win because he's got his dad out of the camp talking. He's got Conor Benn and his family all together in that corner going, I want Conor Benn to win. It's such a big weight on his shoulders to get in that cage and to think about, I've got to win this fight. Yes, he may be a bigger fighter, but again, he's diminishing his weight to do that. It's going to be tough for Eubank Jr. And I think it's completely swung me what has gone on in the last few interviews. And think, look, the egg situation, well, it is what it is. It's a bit of theatre, but Conor Benn seems to be very little phased. In the moment, of course, you're phased because you don't know what's hit you. But he seems less phased. Look, his dad's there. His family are there. The family behind him, and he can see a weakness there. And this is so much a family fight. Many fights, if not 99% of boxing fights, are not about family. This is basically the third fight between the two families. Well, it is. It's Eubank Benn 3, really. And you got to back your family. That is the key point, is that Eubank will feel so much pressure, so much problem with that. Senior is not involved. I've got this pressure. I've got so many interview questions about my dad coming out where he's not here, and we know we've got problems, and we know we got all these issues to figure out. You need to put that aside in such a big fight. It's the biggest fight of Eubank's career. That is key. It's the biggest fight of Eubank's career. If he fails here, is he really going to get Canelo fight? Is he really going to get the Shiraz fight? That is likely touted for him in the sort of Riyadh season style fighting. I think that's the key. I think that's what he's going to fight next if he does win this. So, look, you back your guy. Your family earning money is the key thing. And, he's going to earn a lot of money from this fight. But if he doesn't win, how much is he going to earn for the last one or two fights? He may have to fight 3 or 4 times to get the money he needs to go, I'm happy to retire. And I don't understand it. That's the key thing. From the Eubank camp, I don't understand Senior not helping Junior to go, look, I know we've had differences. I know that, whatever's gone on. You're in a fight against a guy I fought as well. I won one, I drew one. Likely Ben won the second one, so it's really 1-1. I'm going to help you as best I can and make sure something that is not on your mind so you can go in there and win. I don't want you taking, no matter if it's Ben, if it's Smith, if it's some other fighter, I don't want you taking unnecessary damage thinking of me. Other than your training, thinking about me, and that distracting you from the real goal of that getting out of there with with little damage. And that's the key. You don't want to be going there taking lots of damage. And I think as a family member, that's what your key thing is. And I don't understand it. I think there's a lot of problems in the Eubank camp in that sense, in the family. And I think, look, that's gonna affect Eubank in the worst way in there. I think Conor is just so focused. I think, yes, he's coming up in weight, but I think he's got youth on his side to do so. I think Eubank's going to have to train himself, even though he's the bigger fighter. I think it's a problem. I think the only focus in Conor Benn's mind is to win this fight and beat Eubank. And I don't think that's Eubank's full focus in life. And I think that is the key problem. And I think that's why, in this revised prediction, I think Conor Benn will win the fight. Whether that's decision, whether that's knockout, I don't know. But I think Eubank's going to look incredibly bad in there. Drained, definitely. But I think he's going to show that he has other things on his mind and that it's going to look bad. Even from, if you're on Conor Benn's side, if you're on Eubank's side, I'm a neutral. I don't care whichever way it goes. But I do think it's going to look bad in there that Eubank is in there, and it's going to look a bit. It's going to look like what it is. It's going to look like he's had something else on his mind for the last year, or even shorter period of time, say the last 3 months at least. And look. Also, he's notorious for being hard to work with in camp. He's notorious in that sense to be a problem. He keeps switching camps, and it looks a lot more harmonious from a Conor Benn side, and I think that really helps. And where is Eubank now in his career? That is key. He won his last fight, but he did get hurt. He did take a few punches in the first round. And yes, he finished it with style, but should he have finished it better? Yes, he should have done. If he's wanting Canelo, if he's wanting Shiraz, if he's wanting these big paydays that aren't Conor Benn, where sort of it isn't that top world level, he has to improve. And I think he's only going to diminish from this point on. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. I think Conor Benn wins it, and I think it could be by decision, but it's going to look devastating. It's going to look hard for Eubank. You're going to compare fight to fight, Eubank versus Eubank, and you're going to go, you're slower, you're not on it as much, you're not in there as much, you're not doing what you should be doing. And I think that's a real problem for Eubank going forward. Please let me know what you think down in the comments down below. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.